Have you ever wondered why Allah revealed Surah Quraysh, one of the shortest chapters in the Qur'an, yet full of profound guidance about provision, gratitude, and divine protection? Before we begin, like, share, and comment on which other Quranic stories or prophetic lessons you would like us to explore next. Your suggestions guide the next videos! For the protection of the Quraysh, their accustomed security. Let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them against hunger and made them safe from fear. Surah Quraysh Auto 61:4. Though brief, this surah is a profound reminder of Allah's mercy, focusing on the Quraysh tribe, their privileges, and the importance of gratitude and worship in return for divine blessings. The story begins in Mecca, during the pre-Islamic period, when the Quraysh tribe held an influential position in Arabia. They were custodians of the Kaaba, the sacred house of Allah, and were responsible for maintaining its sanctity and welcoming pilgrims from across Arabia. The Quraysh were not only honored spiritually, but they were also blessed materially. Their trade caravans traveled far and wide, bringing wealth, prosperity, and security to their tribe. Every winter, they journeyed south to Yemen. Every summer, they traveled north to Syria. These seasonal trade routes made the Quraysh wealthy, respected, and safe from external threats. But Allah's blessings were not only material. The Quraysh enjoyed security in their land, a rare privilege in the harsh and often violent environment of Arabia. Their tribes were protected from famine, attacks, and the uncertainties of desert life. This dual blessing, sustenance and security, was not due to their strength alone, but a direct favor from Allah. It was in this context that Allah revealed Surah Quraysh, reminding the tribe of their blessings and urging them to express gratitude through worship. The surah begins with, for the protection of the Quraysh, their accustomed security. So 106:1, this verse emphasizes that their comfort, safety, and prosperity were not self-made, but granted by Allah. It was a divine favor, a reminder that wealth and security come with responsibility. The responsibility to worship and serve Allah faithfully. Let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them against hunger and made them safe from fear. 106:3-4. Here, Allah explicitly connects material provision with spiritual duty. The Quraysh were fed against hunger, a basic human need, and made safe from fear, providing peace of mind in a turbulent world. These blessings were meant to inspire gratitude and devotion, not arrogance or neglect. But little did the Quraysh realize that privilege without gratitude can lead to spiritual decay. Wealth, comfort, and safety can blind a person to their dependence on Allah. The surah was a direct reminder to reflect on these blessings, recognize their source, and respond with worship, humility, and acknowledgement of Allah's mercy. The revelation of Surah Quraysh also had a broader lesson for all believers. Divine provision is a trust. Every blessing, whether wealth, security, health, or knowledge, is granted by Allah and carries the responsibility of gratitude, worship, and ethical use. The surah was concise, yet its message was profound. Material comfort is a divine test, and spiritual failure occurs when humans forget the source of their blessings. By highlighting the Quraysh, Allah offered a timeless reminder that prosperity and security are opportunities to grow closer to Him, not to indulge in arrogance or neglect of duty. The Quraysh were more than a wealthy tribe. They were entrusted with the Kaaba, the sacred house of Allah. This responsibility placed them at the spiritual and economic center of Arabia. Every pilgrim who came to Mecca brought trade, interaction, and respect, and the Quraysh thrived in this environment. Yet, Allah's revelation in Surah Quraysh reminds us that these blessings were not permanent privileges earned solely by human effort. For the protection of the Quraysh, their accustomed security. So 106:1, The Quraysh's security was extraordinary. In an era of frequent tribal conflicts, raids, and famine, Mecca was uniquely safe and prosperous. Caravans passed without fear of attack, and the tribe's wealth and trade flourished. This safety was not merely a product of military power or strategy. It was a divine favor, a protection granted by Allah for a specific purpose, so that the Quraysh could recognize His blessings and fulfill their spiritual duties. The surah emphasizes this point. Let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them against hunger and made them safe from fear. 1 Hosea 3:4. Notice the connection. Provision of sustenance and security is directly linked to worship and gratitude. Wealth and safety are not ends in themselves. They are means to fulfill divine responsibility. The Quraysh were being reminded that ignoring this connection would not only be a moral failure, but a spiritual one. This warning carries lessons far beyond the Quraysh. Every believer today can relate blessings, whether financial, social, or personal, are opportunities to turn toward Allah, to act with gratitude, and to maintain humility. Security and comfort are tests as much as they are blessings. Yet, human nature can easily distort perception. The Quraysh, accustomed to comfort, began to see their wealth and trade routes as self-earned achievements. The luxury of their caravans, the trust of their people, and the absence of conflict may have led some to forget the source of these blessings. This is a timeless principle. Prosperity without gratitude leads to arrogance, neglect, and spiritual decay. The Quraysh were being cautioned not to fall into this trap. By reminding them of their dependence on Allah's mercy, the surah urged reflection. Every meal, every safe journey, every thriving market was a sign of divine favor. The surah's structure reinforces this lesson. In just 4 verses, Allah highlights privilege, their unique security in trade, provision, being fed against hunger, a fundamental need, safety, protection from fear, ensuring peace of mind and prosperity, duty, the call to worship Allah in response to these blessings. The Quraysh's situation also underscores an important ethical principle. Blessings come with responsibility. They were entrusted not only with wealth and protection, but also with the care of pilgrims, the maintenance of the Kaaba, and the dissemination of moral and social order. Wealth and security were opportunities for service, not indulgence. Imagine the caravans traveling across deserts, through harsh climates and hostile territories, yet always finding protection and sustenance. The Quraysh were beneficiaries of divine favor at every turn. But Allah's message was clear. These gifts are temporary and contingent on righteousness. Material prosperity is fleeting, but spiritual integrity endures. For modern believers, this is profoundly relevant. Today, comfort and wealth can create illusionary security, leading some to forget their responsibilities, ignore gratitude, or become arrogant. Surah Quraysh reminds us that all blessings are trusts from Allah, and that thankfulness, ethical conduct, and worship are the only proper response. The surah also implicitly contrasts 2 paths, one of gratitude, worship, and righteous action, which aligns with divine favor, one of ingratitude, arrogance, and neglect, which risks spiritual decay and eventual accountability. The Quraysh were at a crossroads. Their blessings could lead to greater closeness to Allah, or become sources of arrogance and moral failure. The revelation of Surah Quraysh served as a gentle yet firm reminder that divine favor must inspire gratitude, not complacency. Little did the people know that their comfort, wealth, and protection were opportunities to turn to Allah, and ignoring these blessings would carry consequences far beyond the material world. The Quraysh had long enjoyed prosperity, protection, and privilege, but with blessing comes responsibility. Allah's revelation in Surah Quraysh reminded them that their material wealth, safe trade routes, and privileged position were gifts, trust that required gratitude, humility, and worship. Yet, as with many who enjoy comfort, not all the Quraysh reflected on this divine reminder. Some viewed their prosperity as entirely self-earned, forgetting the hand of Allah guiding their caravans, feeding them against hunger, and keeping them safe from fear. In the bustling markets of Mecca, among caravans laden with goods from Yemen and Syria, many felt invincible. They measured their security and wealth as a product of human effort alone, ignoring divine protection. The surah, though only 4 verses long, struck directly at this arrogance. Let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them against hunger and made them safe from fear. So 106:3-4. This was a divine reminder. Blessings are not mere rewards for human toil. They are opportunities to recognize Allah's mercy and to respond with devotion. Worship, gratitude, and ethical action are the natural response to divine favor. Some Quraysh heeded this message, quietly reflecting on their dependence on Allah and striving to align their actions with faith and humility. But others ignored it, allowing their arrogance and attachment to material gain to dominate their hearts. The surah's concise yet profound words served as a spiritual mirror, showing each individual their moral and spiritual position. The broader lesson is clear: prosperity and privilege can either elevate the soul or blind it. The Quraysh were blessed materially, yet their spiritual success depended entirely on how they responded to these blessings. Wealth without gratitude, protection without reflection, and status without humility could lead to moral and spiritual failure. For believers today, this is a lesson with universal relevance. Modern comforts, financial security, health, career success, and societal influence can easily lead to complacency. Surah Quraysh reminds us that all blessings are a test, and the proper response is gratitude, worship, and mindful stewardship. The surah also highlights the interconnection of provision and security. In a harsh desert environment, trade caravans faced innumerable dangers: bandits, harsh climates, and political instability. Yet the Quraysh traveled with relative safety, their livelihoods secured. This protection was a direct manifestation of Allah's favor, intended not for indulgence, but for acknowledgement and worship. Little did the people realize that every safe journey, every flourishing market, and every abundant meal was a sign pointing to Allah, a test of gratitude that could either elevate or condemn their souls. Moreover, Surah Quraysh teaches the principle of reciprocity between blessings and responsibility. Material comfort is not just for personal enjoyment. It is a means to perform righteous deeds, support the community, and serve Allah. Those who neglect this responsibility risk spiritual decay, as the Quraysh were being warned. The surah's message also resonates with leadership and societal responsibility. The Quraysh were custodians of the Kaaba and protectors of pilgrims. Their wealth and security were intended to serve the wider community, not just themselves. This reinforces a timeless Islamic principle: privilege and influence carry moral responsibility. Leadership, resources, and social position are entrusted for service and stewardship, not personal indulgence. The story of the Quraysh and this surah also highlights a psychological and spiritual principle. Humans often take blessings for granted, attributing security, provision, and comfort to their own efforts while ignoring the divine source. This natural tendency requires constant mindfulness, reflection, and gratitude. Surah Quraysh acts as a spiritual reminder to maintain awareness of Allah's mercy in every aspect of life. In the final analysis, the Quraysh were at a crossroads. Their response to this surah would determine not only their spiritual standing in this life, but also their eternal outcome. The verses urged them to transform recognition into action, gratitude through worship, mindfulness through humility, and blessings into righteous deeds. Little did they know that the simplicity of 4 short verses contained the blueprint for a fulfilling spiritual life, a lesson in gratitude, and a warning against arrogance that echoes across centuries. As we reach the final part of the story behind Surah Quraysh, it becomes clear that this surah, though brief, carries timeless wisdom and guidance for believers of every era. It is not just about the Quraysh tribe. It is a universal reminder of gratitude, responsibility, and the proper use of divine blessings. The Quraysh were blessed with wealth, security, and influence, but Allah revealed this surah to remind them that these privileges came with moral and spiritual obligations. The verses urge them to recognize that their comfort and prosperity were not self-earned but gifts from Allah, meant to inspire worship, reflection, and ethical conduct. For the protection of the Quraysh, their accustomed security. Let them worship the Lord of this house, who has fed them against hunger and made them safe from fear. So Surah Quraysh 1:16-1-4. The first lesson is the centrality of gratitude. The Quraysh were fed against hunger and made safe from fear, but these blessings were meant to be acknowledged through worship and moral conduct. For modern believers, this means recognizing the countless blessings in daily life, from food, shelter, and safety to opportunities, health, and knowledge, and responding with thankfulness, prayer, and righteous action. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is an active practice. When believers consciously recognize Allah's favors, they are more likely to act ethically, help others, and remain humble, resisting the arrogance and complacency that can accompany prosperity. The Quraysh's trade routes and protection were not just privileges, they were trusts from Allah. Similarly, modern believers are entrusted with resources, skills, knowledge, and influence. The surah reminds us that blessings are responsibilities. They are opportunities to serve Allah and humanity, support justice, and use wealth and power for good. Neglecting this responsibility leads to spiritual decay, as the Quraysh were warned. True success is measured not by material accumulation, but by how blessings are used to fulfill divine obligations and promote good in the world. The Quraysh lived in a rare environment of peace and protection, but Allah reminds us that security and comfort are tests, not guarantees. In modern life, comfort can make people forget their dependence on Allah. The surah calls believers to remain mindful, humble, and spiritually vigilant, understanding that divine protection is continuous and contingent upon gratitude, obedience, and faith. The surah beautifully links provision and security with worship. Material blessings are inseparable from spiritual obligations. Just as the Quraysh were fed and protected, every believer today enjoys similar divine favors in various forms. The response to these favors must be worship, ethical living, and the pursuit of good. Wealth and comfort are not ends in themselves, but means to strengthen faith, support others, and remain connected to Allah. The Quraysh were custodians of the Kaaba, serving both their tribe and visiting pilgrims. This reminds modern believers, especially those in leadership, that privilege carries moral responsibility. Resources, influence, and positions of power are opportunities to serve, protect, and guide others, not merely to enjoy personal advantage. The surah teaches that neglecting this responsibility leads to spiritual and social decay. Leadership, in any era, must align material authority with ethics, justice, and worship. The story of the Quraysh and this surah also highlights a psychological and spiritual principle. Humans often take blessings for granted, attributing security, provision, and comfort to their own efforts while ignoring the divine source. This natural tendency requires constant mindfulness, reflection, and gratitude. Surah Quraysh acts as a spiritual reminder to maintain awareness of Allah's mercy in every aspect of life. In the final analysis, the Quraysh were at a crossroads. Their response to this surah would determine not only their spiritual standing in this life, but also their eternal outcome. The verses urge them to transform recognition into action, gratitude through worship, mindfulness through humility, and blessings into righteous deeds. Little did they realize that the simplicity of 4 short verses contained the blueprint for a fulfilling spiritual life, a lesson in gratitude, and a warning against arrogance that echoes across centuries. Blessings, security, and prosperity are tests as well as gifts. They are opportunities to worship, act ethically, and serve others. Surah Quraysh reminds believers that gratitude and responsible action are inseparable from divine favor. Before you leave, like, share, and comment on which other Quranic stories or prophetic lessons you would like to explore next. Just as Surah Quraysh teaches gratitude for blessings, sharing knowledge spreads guidance and preserves understanding for future generations. Centuries may pass, but the lessons of Surah Quraysh remain eternal, a call to gratitude, a warning against complacency, and a reminder that divine favor is intertwined with responsibility and worship.